Since Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Dust to Dust is split into 2 volumes, I shall read the synopsis for both volumes. The first one. The Hunt is On. New York Times bestselling author Chris Robertson of Cinderella from Fabletown with Love, iZombie, Stanley Starborn, writes the prequel to legendary sci-fi author Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the inspiration for Blade Runner and one of the greatest science fiction novels ever published. Who hunted androids before Rick Deckard? Just 2 men, Malcolm Reed, the only special human with the ability to discern man from machine, and Charlie Victor, who, because of his past, is the perfect man for the job, or is he? Journey through a world returning from the brink of destruction as Malcolm and Charlie hunt down 6 rogue androids that need to be retired. And now, part 2. Machine vs. Machine. New York Times bestselling author Chris Robertson, Superman, iZombie, Stanley Starborn, writes the prequel to legendary sci-fi author Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the inspiration for Blade Runner and one of the greatest science fiction novels ever published. Charlie Victor and Malcolm Reed continue their pulse-pounding mission to retire the renegade androids threatening to destroy the human race. Journey through a world returning from the brink of destruction, as the critically acclaimed epic concludes in an exciting finale that pits android versus android, while leaving mankind's fate in the balance. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's a prequel to Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? That's mainly because they adapted the novel into graphic novel form, and they decided, let's do a prequel story. And it's actually pretty neat. Now, I have yet to read the graphic novels of the graphic novel adaptation of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but I have flipped through it. The pictures are beautiful, nice, and clean. Whereas this one, the pictures are kind of gritty, and the lines aren't perfectly straight. It's kind of a little dirty, in lack of a better term, like it's a drawn image, but it's kind of like smudged over with dirt in a way to kind of give it this grainy look, like a very dirty city that just came out of World War III, or World War Terminus in the world of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And it kind of gives like this world that's just struggling to continue on, trying to go forward. It's kind of like the very early seasons of the animated series of Batman, the best adaptation of Batman, to where it kind of had this grainy look to it. It just had this like dirty old world look to it, It is like not clean, it's not perfect, it's not smooth. It kind of has that to it. And it also just shows that much like Stanley's visual inspiration for Blade Runner, which is nothing is straight, no lines are straight. Even if you draw a circle, it's not perfect. It's kind of curved at some point, So it kind of gives that kind of like broken world look to it as well, and the city that's very dilapidated as well. The storyline is very well written. The first volume is more just introductions and giving very little hints as to what the main plot will be, whereas part 2 gets into the very main plot of it and does go to the conclusion, and kind of sets up everything for the main story of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Now, if you're thinking, they're called Blade Runners, they're not called Blade Runners. They're actually hunters. They're detectives. They're bounty hunters. They're not necessarily Blade Runners. They don't have that title in Philip K. Dick's work. They're just called hunters mostly, or bounty hunters, or in some cases detectives. But it's kind of interesting, much like the novel of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. It's a nice analytical study of human empathy and what makes us human, and the emotions surrounding them as well. Particularly with the main characters, there's a female scientist who's named Samantha, and it kind of shows how she lost empathy over time with school, having to dissect a worm, to dissecting a frog, to dissecting a human in college, how she kind of at first really didn't want to do it, and then struggled to do it, and then had to do it and learned around it, and shows how humans' empathy is getting worse, whereas android empathy is actually getting better as well, because while the villainous android actually has no empathy for humans at all and actually wants to wipe them out, whereas our hero android actually is subtly developing emotions. He's very cold and analytical, and he doesn't really feel for humans, but he understands empathy and actually understands consequences. And you could see the beginnings of androids being sympathetic and having emotions. Um, and the people's need for Mercerism, which is, empathy and feelings and needing to connect as well. And you also see the beginnings of, because this is the post World War III, you got the radiation from the radiation dust affecting people, and you got animals being killed left and right. Although you don't see that, but by the end of the story, you do see advertisements for mechanical pets, android pets, which is kind of cool. But also kind of sets up the Voight Comp one of the best things about this graphic novel is the fact there's no Voight Comp. And it sets it up because the radioactive dust actually creates kind of like mutant abilities, not X-Men type mutant abilities, but some people get gifts. And one of the characters actually has an empathy detector. He can actually can discern what's human and what's machine, because machines display no emotional aura, because he can see colored auras. If he looks at a human, if he sees red, he could tell that human's angry and pissed and vengeful, and it really irritates him. In fact, all emotions on humans irritates him because he's reading it and he feels it and it really gets at him. It's really cool and interesting. And so our hero android basically picks him up and actually takes away his medicine, because he's taking medicine to control this and to have some semblance of a normal life. And so the android comes along and takes it away and says, I need you to help me find these androids, and the way to do that is for you to get off your medication and therefore read everybody's emotions. And it's kind of interesting. In fact, one of the best parts, it's kind of a spoil, but one of the best parts is when this person is actually kidnapped by the villainous androids. He's actually sitting with them, and they're getting ready, for the hunter to come find them. They're loading their guns. They're actually starting off their plans to kill the human race and stuff. And the guy's just joyful. I mean, he's just like, because, like I said, machines don't show any empathy or any emotional, auras. He's just total bliss. He feels like a kid getting anything he wants. He's just so happy and joyful. He's like in euphoric state, basically. It's weirdly humorous and very interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting story. The color palette is great. The images are very nice. Like I said, it's murky, it's grimy. The action scenes are pretty cool too. But what's interesting though is the climax at the end is not a huge action climax. It's actually an emotional one. It's actually very humanly emotions, and our main hero does the most human thing of all before the end of the story. So it's very cool. I give this like a 3 stars out of 5. It's just a great read, and it does leave you thinking at the end, which is like much of like Philip K. Dick's work to begin with. It's just every time you finish one of his stories, you're like, what the fuck did I just read? And wow, that had a lot of stuff to make me think about afterwards. Particularly with Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, because it has a very environmental theme to it, because, the war and radiation basically wiped out a lot of animals. And also the environment's bad. It's raining constantly. The constant cloud cover from radiation dust, and and also the question of what makes us human. What is human? What makes us human? Is emotions good, bad? And it's just a lot to unload, and it's something to think about. And it's good type of thinking about too, and something to take back and step back from the story and just think about, and also think about yourself, about what makes you human or anything, and just a lot of things really to unload with that. So yeah, it really does do a good job of paying homage and paying respect to Philip K. Dick's original story of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but adding something to it, and giving a little bit more backstory to the hunters as well, like who did it beforehand and what really started the ball rolling with the hunters, and also the Voight Comp, and also some other things as well, of hunting down androids, how to do it faster, and this and that. So it's pretty cool. Alright then, so I give this 3 stars out of 5, and I do recommend this if you're a science fiction fan, although I'd say read the novel, but also, pick up the graphic novel adaptation as well. Like I said, the images are beautiful, and it does follow from what I saw, it does follow the novel step by step, although that's in more volumes. I think it's 6 volumes, but they do adapt the novel pretty much verbatim. So very much worth reading, and this is very much worth reading too, as well as seeing the movie adaptations Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Granted, the movies is mostly inspired by Philip K. Dick's novel, but it does pay good respects to each other. As even if you've seen the movie and read the book does pay respects to the movie as well. In fact, if you think about it, I think one the Blade Runner fan put it, the book and the movie complement each other in a lot of ways, and so they're very good companions to each other as well. Same thing with the graphic novel adaptations. So I'll probably start rambling if I continue on with this, so I'll just say thank you for watching, have a nice day, stay safe, wash your hands, and be well.